You think you're lazy, undisciplined, a disappointment, because the life they make look effortless feels like survival to you. You try, you sit at the desk, you open the page, you start, you stop, you stall, and somewhere deep inside, you wonder, what's wrong with me? But here's the truth, you're not broken. You're intuitive, and your mind was never wired for obedience. It was wired for synthesis. You live it again, the hum of the office, the rhythm of the clock. For many, it's a cradle of productivity, a structured path to achievement. But for you, perhaps it feels like a cage, a relentless demand for something your very essence resists. The pattern is painfully familiar, the urgent task, the creeping procrastination, the sudden onset of an inexplicable fatigue that no amount of sleep can cure. Then comes the shame, the quiet, corrosive feeling that you are defective, that something essential in you just doesn't work like it should. You look around and you see them, the steady workers, the consistent performers. And the question echoes, why can't I be like them? This isn't about effort. It's about architecture. You're not malfunctioning. You're operating under a different design. One Carl Jung, the Swiss depth psychologist, understood and named in his profound exploration of the human psyche. Jung introduced the concept of psychological types, not as rigid personality boxes, but as internal orientations of energy. Among the most crucial distinctions he drew were between sensing and intuition. The modern work world, the 9-to-5 rhythm, the standardized routine, is largely structured for sensing types. Sensing is grounded in the present moment, in concrete details, tangible outcomes, and process-driven tasks. It thrives in environments built on repetition, structure, and predictability. But if you've been struggling to keep pace in that world, it's likely because you lead with intuition. And intuition is a different function entirely. It perceives the world not through what is, but through what might be. Through the symbolic, the interconnected, the possible. Where sensing sees data, intuition sees patterns. And when you force an intuitive system to operate in a structure designed for sensing minds, something slowly withers. The intuitive mind isn't lazy. It's hungry for complexity, novelty, synthesis. It wants to make meaning. It wants to connect things others haven't yet noticed belong together. It thrives in bursts, in waves, in nonlinear arcs of vision. But traditional work environments don't reward vision. They reward compliance, predictability, consistency. And so the intuitive burns out, not because they lack discipline, but because their psychic engine was designed for altitude, not routine. Imagine a supercomputer built to model the evolution of galaxies being used to perform basic arithmetic all day. It can do it, but it suffers. That suffering becomes invisible over time, but it's there, in your body, in your mind, in the emptiness that follows every forced sprint. And the world calls it laziness, but it's not. Imagine taking a telescope designed to map the cosmos and using it to monitor office attendance. It will work, but it will suffer. You are that telescope. And the shame you carry for not fitting that rhythm, that is the shadow. Jung described the shadow as the part of the psyche that holds everything we've been taught to repress. Everything we were told is wrong, inferior, or unacceptable. When you internalize a system that defines value by output and you don't operate in linear output, your very way of existing gets pushed into the dark. You don't just struggle, you believe you are the struggle. But the truth is, the structure never fit your function. You learn to blame yourself for breaking under something you were never meant to carry. Jung's path of individuation is the slow, sacred process of reclaiming those parts of you, especially the ones that were pathologized for their difference. The fatigue you feel isn't weakness, it's a signal, a message from the psyche saying, this is not your rhythm. The procrastination you battle isn't laziness. It's often the resistance of a mind that needs meaning to activate. Intuitives don't move on command. They move when the system lights up, when something clicks, when a deep internal yes emerges, and the scattered pieces suddenly form a whole. Then the work pours through in one sustained rush, and what seemed impossible for hours or days gets completed in minutes. This rhythm doesn't fit time clocks, but it fits truth. So what now? What does this give you beyond a label? It gives you liberation, the chance to stop fighting yourself, to stop apologizing for your internal tempo. This doesn't mean leaving the world behind or abandoning all structure. It means choosing environments that feed your architecture rather than flatten it. It means finding roles that require strategy, insight, deep problem solving, or systems thinking. For some, that might look like systems design, strategic consulting, visionary research, or writing that rewires how people see the world. For others, it might be creative direction, medical innovation, interdisciplinary synthesis, or designing future-facing tools in tech, education, or mental health. Any domain where depth is an asset and pattern recognition is the invisible key. These aren't jobs you simply plug into. They're arenas you grow into, slowly, with vision and time. And if you're earlier in your journey, just starting out, or unsure where you belong, don't panic if the destination isn't clear yet. Start by noticing where your mind naturally goes when no one is watching. What questions obsess you? What systems frustrate you? What problems feel personal to solve? That's your compass. You don't need a perfect title yet. You need a direction that honors your way of thinking. Over time, that path will shape itself around you. Intuitives often build the role because the role didn't exist until they named it. It also means protecting your time so your mind can wander and synthesize without guilt, because that wandering is not wasted. It's preparation, it's incubation, and it's where your deepest contributions begin. You're not here to compete with the efficient. You're here to see what they can't. You're here to name what hasn't been named. To solve problems others don't even know are problems yet. You are not lazy. You are intuitive. And that's not a flaw. It's a blueprint. A blueprint for a kind of brilliance the world rarely understands, but deeply needs. Thank you for watching. If this names something real in you, explore the rest of this channel. You'll find more than content. You'll find language for what you've always felt but never knew how to say. If this resonated, subscribe, not for performance, but for permission. Permission to stop shrinking. Permission to build in your own rhythm, not theirs, yours.